Hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm Bilgi and I'm leading the UX design and research team at IKEA Home Smart. Today, I will talk to you about smart home, what Internet of Things mean when internet fails, how we design for the real problems of real people, and what maybe you can learn from our mistakes. If you think the notion of smart home is new, well, think again. Believe it or not, this movie called Electric House from Buster Keaton is 100 years old, literally. Smart home has been an exciting notion for people for a long time. We dreamt about robots in our home, talking to our gadgets, and mostly getting technology to do our chores for us. And this is the Jetsons from 1962. You can see the seeds for a lot of technologies that are maybe still out of reach for the many. With the advent of internet came the notion of controlling things from a distance. And soon after that, we thought about putting tiny computers into things and called them Internet of Things. But automating your home, your life, is not that easy. Up until recently, it was the privilege of the few that had money, knowledge, well, and the patience. Here you can see a lecture about building a home automation system with Raspberry Pi, which I sped up 100 times, and it still feels a bit long. Looking back at these examples, you can see the focal points. What people found exciting, what they were afraid of, what they made fun of. And I think these are really very interesting topics for entertainers and early adopters. But for us who are designing these systems, the most important question is, what will stand the test of time? The smart home market today resembles the personal computer market of the early 80s. This is an Apple One computer. As you can see, you had to put it together yourself and even debug the PCB. Today, there are a lot of smart home enthusiasts out there that are putting together their own systems from scratch. So we'd like to bring this exclusive endeavor called the smart home to the masses with super simple experiences. So first, I'd like to explain to you the complexity of this area. This is a computer. In fact, this thing has more things in common with a modern mobile phone than a light bulb. Processor, memory, antennas, you can connect it with an app and have exciting colors and automations. There are a lot of ways to control this light bulb and to make it smart. The most common way on the market today is to connect the bulb to the internet via your home Wi-Fi router, which connects to your internet service provider, which connects to a cloud service of the manufacturer, which connects back to your internet service provider, that connects to your Wi-Fi router, back to your phone. Note that this command can rotate the globe a few times before it makes it to your home. And if the internet's sketchy, good luck. That's why we're not in the business of Internet of Things. We are interested in solving real problems for real people. We're here to democratize the smart home for the many. Today, I will tell you simple stories that kept us on the straight and narrow towards this mission. This was one of the early starting points. If you have an existing lamp, how do you make it dimmable? And how do you reach switches that were hidden behind sofas? We figured out that these were very common problems after quite a few home visits. And as a solution to this problem in 2016, we have created a unique wireless dimmer that did not have any moving parts. It worked with a motion sensor called an accelerometer. And it was a prepared combo of a smart bulb and a wireless dimmer. It did not need internet at all. And of course, it had a magnet. A furniture company famous for its meatballs and flatbacks and Allen key going into the smart home market, it was a huge movement and a true transformation. In the beginning, I don't think we understood the size of the opportunity completely. This dimmer is probably a symbol of our naivete. It was a pretty little thing that we loved and the press loved it. Let's say that we learned a ton from this product and the first version of our system too. Every day, we accumulate a lot of insights and learnings that come our way from primary and secondary research, from data, from coworkers. It can be really overwhelming. We found that converting the most repeated patterns into principles is the best way of keeping learnings visible, usable, and alive. Today, I'd like to give you 4 important learnings and principles that you can take into your everyday work. These will hopefully help you craft much more meaningful and inclusive experiences, even when internet fails. The first one is, don't design for the ideal. You might have seen this type of display in a store for many products. This is one of our successful combos, a remote control and the bulb in a prepared kit. It looks super simple, but sometimes the reality does not reflect the ideals in your dreams. This tape is a message to the residents of the home. It says, do not use the light switch. At some point, we thought the wall switch was our biggest enemy. But technology is a name for something that does not quite work just yet. We have a job to respect the wishes of the user that still wants to keep their existing habits. So instead of hating the light switch, we built a system that does not break when people want to keep to their existing habits. We made it possible to dim the light using our remote and turn it on and off using the existing switch. Our first principle connected to this is respect the reality outside the screen. Not everything revolves around your product. In fact, most of the time, our product is the least important thing that our users are dealing with. So it is a good idea to build a product on top of the reality of the world. Are you aware of what might happen outside the screen because of what's happening on the screen in your product, for example? The second learning is it sucks before it rocks. Have you ever created an amazing mockup and prayed that everyone loves it? Did you ever get mad at people for ruining your initial fantastic concept? I'm guilty of this sin many times over. It is very typical that we designers say, engineers ruined my design. Think, when you show your work in progress, are you often looking for affirmation or actual feedback that would make your work better? Here's an ancient video of what our app looked like. The thing is, everything here was designed and specified way before developers had a chance of looking at it. And see how the slider is jumping around, and no one could foresee this in the process that we used. We tried giving endless notes to engineers and peers, which never really solved anything. We realized nothing really beats sitting together and hacking away. You can't annotate your work to perfection. You have to get your hands dirty. Today, we never show work with the hopes that it will get a standing ovation. And hint, if you do get a standing ovation on your first try, chances are people might be afraid of giving feedback to you. I blame the double diamond process a bit for this phenomenon of it rocks, then it sucks. That pinch in the middle and the individual sections make people think that there should be no overlap between the stages of this process. And each stage should hand over perfect results to the next. Due to our learnings, we encourage a new process that is a healthy mix of design thinking, lean startup, and agile that we called 3X. Instead of wanting perfection from a shiny initial mockup, we learned to encourage overlapping stages of our process. The most important part of it is experimentation. Now we ask our developers to code something as soon as they can. And we look at our phones during our reviews, not to check our text messages, but we don't want to see screens inside screens. With this process, we avoid big design upfront. So the designers get to work on the execution of one feature, all the while preparing for the exploration of the next feature, together with the developers. This means there's a continuous overlap between vision and execution, and they're not separated by the pinch in the middle. We turn these learnings into a principle. Stop polishing and build. Over-designing really does not deliver value. At IKEA, we say, prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. Make sure that it sucks before it rocks, not the other way around. This was one way for us to ensure we accounted for situations like sketchy internet connections or power cuts. Next time you show a mockup, think about how open and vulnerable you are to criticism. The next one is data is nothing without research. Here's an example. A few years ago, this is what the data from our system showed us. I'm not giving you the actual X value because it was a depressing number. When we saw this output from our system data, we were shocked. And the first question we asked was, yeah, but why? We all know that our research needs to be both qualitative and quantitative, but more importantly, what people say and what they do are almost always very different things. We learn to prioritize behavior over attitude. And yes, the system data is golden since it tells us about behaviors directly. But you have to observe people to decipher what's really going on and why. In our case, when people were trying to add a product to our app, there were a ton of instructions that they needed to follow, and all on one page. The original experience was designed during the days of the 3-click rule. So we thought that less number of screens meant a more simple onboarding experience. We assumed that the technology might be failing during the onboarding sequence instead of the user experience. And this is the user's reality. It is messy. There is no space for our ego nor our assumptions in their world. In their reality, there were many steps to go through in this long screen. When we observed people, we saw that they were also confused by printed manuals. Moreover, they got distracted by crying babies and ringing doorbells. So we decided to assign one action per screen. And also making sure that if there are distractions, the user did not lose any effort by locking the screen. With this approach, even in our first iterations, we have increased the onboarding success by multiple factors. In our newer products like the air purifier, we improved onboarding even more by introducing animations and really having one physical step per screen. This way, the users had a chance to do the physical steps and come back to the screen for more instructions. We improved the success rate of the users and pairing almost to perfection every time with this. And it was only possible thanks to our learnings from both data and observation that amounted to meaningful insights. You have heard this before, many times. Data is the new oil. But no one told you the second part. It is flammable. Hoarding data without a clear goal of improvement just increases your risks of confusion in insights, data leaks, and maybe you risk losing the trust of the users. That is why we use our core values and ethics when utilizing data. One of the best examples of this is the sunset sunrise feature. Each day, the sunset and sunrise time is different on every point of the globe. To make this feature happen in a private way, we went of our way. Instead of keeping the location of the users all the time, we use it for a split second. And then we keep it in the gateway for one moment. We never have to see it. And really, we're not interested in your location. Our principle for this is the reverse gear paradox. Imagine a car maker that looks at the usage data from all the cars around the world. They see that the reverse gear is used only 0.0001% of the time. If they have never observed how a car is used, they might get rid of the reverse gear altogether. Think for a moment what the data you receive every day looks like and how the user's reality out there might look like. And last but not least, find meaningful solutions. We have an app that we are proud of. It is the centerpiece of our system. But not all home smart users are burning to use an app from the beginning, nor they're going around in their homes with phones in their pajama pockets. In our system, there's a very high level of flexibility and backwards compatibility that we are proud to be catering for, but it needs to start simple. We need to enable a do-it-yourself system without making people feel like they must be programmers. There are many combinations and permutations that people can start from that simply solves simple and real problems in the home. And we are pretty proud of these independent solutions. It covers a lot of basic needs before the need of an app or a gateway or the internet. But the real value comes when things start to connect to each other. And when they get to the point of adding a timer or an automation, then they get an app. We're happy that our system does not start from the app. It starts from solving real problems. Its barrier for entry, therefore, is very low. It's backwards compatible. And more importantly, even if your phone is dead or your internet is dead, your smart home will still be alive. We're trying our best to deliver meaning that can give value to people, society, and the planet at the same time. This small sliver is where we find the most meaningful solutions and the most inclusive ones too. We turn these learnings into our escalator principle. When an escalator fails, it's still a set of stairs. So our system is not relying completely on cloud connectivity or the internet. Or when the battery in your remote is empty, you can still use a smart bulb as a dumb bulb using your existing light switch. What features do you have in your product that can still work or that should still work when internet fails? So we heard, don't design for the ideal. Build your products on reality, not the ideal life of your personas. It sucks before it rocks, so stop polishing and start building. Data is nothing without research, so observe behaviors before assuming anything, and don't hoard data. And find meaningful solutions. Build an escalator, not an elevator. Even though these are 4 important learnings, the most important is that we still try to convert repeating patterns into principles, and we keep learnings visible, usable, and alive. Remember our cute dimmer in the beginning. We now improved it by focusing on what's important for our users, not only what excites us. You can now turn on and off your light, dim it up and down much easier. Even if your hands are full, even if your fingers are oily, even if you don't have any fingers. One of the reasons we care so deeply about inclusive design is because we would like to empower everyone to have a better life. Everyone needs to be able to enjoy the benefits of technology. Everyone should make their lives a bit better every day because they deserve it. We're on a mission to democratize the smart home for the many, respecting their hopes, wishes, fears, and needs. And thankfully, I am not alone in this. A huge thanks goes to everyone in our teams that keep believing in our audacious goal of turning something so exclusive into an inclusive endeavor that will stand the test of time, even when internet fails. Thank you for listening, and don't hesitate to reach out on Twitter or LinkedIn.